It's live now. You can begin.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Murphy. I'm the village attorney for the village of Dolton. This is the initial section of the session of the joint review board for the proposed tax increment financing district, which we're calling the West Sibley redevelopment project area. Why don't I have the first the village representative on the joint review board. Ms. Scott, identify yourself.
My name is Elizabeth Scott, the village administrator.
And you are the village representative. On with us are the village's consultants from Kane McKenna. Maybe each of you identify yourself.
Sure. I'm Bob Richlicki with Kane McKenna. And
I'm Lowell Durham with Kane McKenna.
So let's start by way of background. This proposed redevelopment project area involves property with a common address of 300 West Sibley. It is really right at the western boundary of Dolton. It's a relatively small area as proposed TIF districts go. It's been blighted, in our view, for a number of years with both structural problems, neighborhood problems, and user problems. The property's been in disrepair and unoccupied for many years. The village initiated this process some time ago, and the village's overall goal is to establish this TIF district as a way of incentivizing economic development of this property, primarily sales tax producing retail property. The tentative schedule would be following this joint review board proceeding, which I'll explain in a moment. The next step will be a public hearing in June, and following the public hearing, the plan may be changed or modified, at which point the village will be presented with a series of ordinances which collectively establish this redevelopment project area and establish the use of tax increment financing for the area, and also approving a proposed redevelopment plan or TIF plan for the property. So that's been the village's goal. We've talked to prospective developers. We're hopeful to get a grocer to come in here. The community needs it. And so the purpose of the joint review board is primarily to get input from the other governmental bodies who impose taxes on this property relative to their views as to whether this property qualifies as a redevelopment project area for TIF purposes. It is not the purpose of the joint review board to weigh in on any particular redevelopment deal. Nothing's before them now. This is really almost in the nature of like a zoning board or a plan commission who will be asked to weigh in on their advisory views on eligibility. The notices, I'll let Bob and Lowell explain this, but just in overview terms, notices have been sent out to all of the taxing bodies who cover this property, and it's completely up to them whether they want to participate in this process. It is now just about 2:15, and we sent out regular invitations, and Ms. Nixon from the village has sent out a Zoom invite. And as of now, we have nobody participating from any of the governmental bodies. But let's proceed with the presentation and overview by the gentleman from Kane McKenna.
Okay, thank you, John. I wonder if Giovanni or Elizabeth, they were going to do a share screen. We had a brief presentation, John.
Yeah.
I guess the idea would be if we could pop that up.
Yeah.
Okay, Giovanni's putting it on now.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll share my screen. Give me 1 second.
Thank you.
Let's proceed with the presentation and overview by the gentleman from Kane McKenna.
Thank you, John.
Can you all view it yet?
Not yet, Giovanni.
Okay. I'll go back.
I guess the idea would be if we could pop that up.
Yes, I'll share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay. Now. How about now?
There we go.
Let me start the beginning for it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, Bob Richlicki here from K. McKenna and my colleague Lowell Durham. And we were retained by the village to look at the area described by John Murphy. It's one single tax parcel with the common address 300 West Sibley. It's about 6.5 acres. And we're going to go in a little overview as how we came to the determination that the area would serve or qualify as a TIF district and some of the key elements of the village's TIF plan. If we could move to the next slide.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're gonna, and let's just go to the map, Giovanni. Go to the next slide, please. So that's the area in question. It is right now improved with a single-story commercial building. You can see it bounded by the Little Calumet River and also by Sibley or 147th Street on the south, and is landlocked by some other commercial properties. Again, this area would be considered as the TIF district and only this area. So really our examination of the factors for qualification and economic redevelopment options were set only for this area. If we go to the next slide, Giovanni. So again, the village identified this as a key focus area given its past problems. The idea would be that it would be a contributor to the local economy in terms of reuse for either sales tax, new sales, property taxes. And as Mr. Murphy indicated, there has been a subject to some redevelopment interest, but the area does have, the building and the property does have some challenges associated with it, which is the basis for the TIF plan. Giovanni, if we could keep going. So according to the TIF Act, the area has to be over 1.5 acres, which we have. I said it was closer to 6.5 acres. And the but-for requirement, and that what that simply means is that if you didn't have TIF for the ability to use the new property tax increment to assist in redevelopment, it wouldn't be redeveloped. And I think that's been the expectation, not only from discussions with other redevelopers, but also given the condition of the property. If we could go on. And TIF, this is an overview. I want to be real clear. This is not a new tax. No new taxes are assessed on the property in addition to the regular taxes. Basically, what TIF does is it separates the money between what they call the base revenues and then any new revenues, which is the increment. And property is taxed as per normal. And there's that bifurcation by the Cook County Treasurer's Office as to new money and old money. In this case, because the base is zero, it is all new money because the property has been subject to various tax delinquencies over the years. And now with village ownership, it is exempt, and any tax increment with the property taxes would be new taxes. If we could go on. And the whole idea of TIF is to build upon development and development produces the increment. Like as I said earlier, it's not like a new tax rate, like a special service area tax or referendum tax. It's not that. It utilizes the existing tax rates that are on the property tax bill. It applies them to the development in that little area that we saw at the beginning of the presentation. And that tax increment is returned to the village to a special fund that they have similar to their other TIF districts, and use it for redevelopment only within the envelope of that property. We could go on. So in order to qualify a TIF, the village, using our assistance, had to make a determination that the property was blighted. And in order to do that, there's 13 what they call eligibility factors in the TIF Act, and you have to meet a minimum of 5. And we found them. Mr. Durham and I identified these after his review of the property and our review of the village information. We found that there was obsolescence, and what that means is the property no longer functions for the use that it was supposed to be. And that has to do with the fact that it was vacant and it's in poor physical condition, which leads to the second factor, deterioration. This was found throughout the site, both the condition of the building, the improvements, and of course the site improvements as well, including the parking lot and the drives and sidewalks and loading areas. Lack of community planning was also found. And what that basically means is this started out as a single-use property. There were issues there as it related to both buffering and access egress. Those would be addressed as part of the TIF redevelopment. Excessive vacancies, that one, we found the property had been vacant for at least a decade, if not more, and maybe partially occupied over the years, but really has not been a functioning part of the local economy for a decade. And last but not least, we had code violations. And again, this was reviewed with the village staff related to citations for the condition of the property, dumping and illegal uses, dumping in the back, storage. So this was found and they were all documented. So we identified the requisite 5 factors for the TIF Act in order for the area to qualify. If we could go on, Giovanni, thank you. There's an outside view of the property. Again, there's some additional pictures which we had, which showed conditions, again, very poor condition of the property. But as I said earlier, one building, one improved property, and that is the basis for the TIF. It is, very discrete and doesn't include other properties around it. If we go on. So the TIF plan, the eligibility report finds that the area qualifies as a blighted area. We made the findings based on those 5 factors. Then the TIF plan is kind of an envelope that indicates that we have conformed with the requirements of the TIF Act, that we found the area eligible. We have a legal description. We have a map. It's a discrete piece of property. All that stuff is covered within the plan. And these are some of the highlights. The base CAV, based on 2020 data from Cook County Assessor, is 0, as the property is exempt currently. The projected EAV, and this is just an estimate based on what would go there in terms of market valuation, and that would be over a 23-year period. The anticipation would be that property EAV would grow to about approximately 4 million. Our TIF budget, and this is just a budget, it's a big number because it's over 23 years. The village doesn't necessarily have to spend this money. It's dependent upon monies coming in and would be approved by normal village procedures as they would for warrants or any kind of utilization of money. Land uses, retail, commercial, and mixed uses are planned for the area. And the plan also indicates that but for the TIF, the village does not expect that the property would be redeveloped. So I think, is there one more slide, Giovanni? Maybe not. Okay. We're about midway through the process now, or a little more past in terms of the notices. As Mr. Murphy indicated, there's a public hearing scheduled for June 7th. No action, obviously, by the board would be taken until 2 weeks after that. And this is an open period for public comment, taxing districts included, as well as residents in the village. Notices were sent to residential addresses within 750 feet. Certified mailing went to all the taxing districts. And coming up in May, there'll be a couple notices in a newspaper related to the public hearing. So it's been a transparent process as is required under the TIF Act. And this joint review board is, again, part of the process as it relates to providing information to the other taxing districts, as well as to the public. John,
Yeah, Ms. Scott, if you can come back on, please.
Okay. Hear me?
Village administrator, she's the village's member. You were able to obtain a public member?
Yes, I was.
Is
And
he's present?
No, he's not present.
So we don't have really anybody at this point other than the village. And no government has participated thus far. Given the relatively small size of the property, its reputation as blighted, I think the interest of all in seeing this property rehabilitated, combined with the opportunities for all of the taxing bodies to further participate on the establishment of the TIF district, it seems to me that we should just move forward. And Bob and Lowell, have you ever had a situation like this where you just have a one-person recommendation, a one-body recommendation?
Yeah, I have, they had it actually in the village of Lombard a few years ago, John, for two TIF districts. The village was the only member, who had showed up and they proceeded with the recommendation. Again, in that case too, if my memory serves me correctly, everyone was pretty much behind. It was two TIFs on the outside of the downtown area. And they were felt to be generally supported by the community and by the other taxing districts. And in fact, those districts were set up and there was no either controversy or anyone from the taxing districts protesting the establishment. Like I said, they were pretty straightforward. I don't know, Lowell, what have you run into?
Okay, we just recently did one for Harvey, and you guys shared some of the taxing districts, and we had no pushback whatsoever. I think it was just this past January.
I think
And
you're
we
right.
got no, and we had a similar situation to what we have now. You know, it was just one representative from the city. And we chose, they were chosen as the chairperson and whatever, you know, just in case there's a second JRB meeting. In the case of Harvey, we didn't have one.
Yes,
And
I
the
think,
TIF is,
right.
and the TIF is created right now. And the reason why I brought that up is because you guys share the same taxing districts
Right,
in a
right,
lot
right.
of your taxing situations.
Right. I think with that in mind, I think we should move forward in effect with Ms. Scott recommending that the property qualifies for TIF and moving forward. So in effect, Elizabeth can make that recommendation to right now.
John, if I could interpose though, in order, if that's the path, don't we also be a good idea for Elizabeth to nominate the public member and then also herself as chairperson, just to clean up that part of the agenda, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, but the public member is not here,
Okay.
not present. So I think given the disinterest by all of the governments, I think that Ms. Scott should simply announce that it's the recommendation of the JRB through her that the property qualifies for TIF. And if Elizabeth, you'll make that now. You have to unmute. You have to unmute.
Still, oh, there we go.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's my recommendation that we move forward. Under the advisement of JRB, we move forward with this TIF.
And that's your voting. So all in favor? Elizabeth?
Yes.
So the recommendation has been made. I notice there are 13 people watching online now. So let me again kind of wrap up by saying the purpose of this proceeding was to obtain input and recommendation from other potential governmental bodies who levy taxes in this piece of property as to eligibility for TIF. We need to keep the process moving forward. Nobody's here. So based on that, this recommendation will move as part of the process to the village board. The next step, Bob and Lowell, there'll be first of all, public can comment at any time regarding the proposed TIF. The next public meeting will be June. What is that date, Bob?
June 7th.
Right. And again, we don't know what the COVID situation will be relative to Zoom versus personal meeting, but in any event, not only will any member of the public, but also members representing governmental bodies will have the opportunity to comment. We have 13 people watching online. If Giovanni, if anybody has a question, we're happy to answer that now. I don't know how you can open that up to the participants. If anybody wants to submit a question like at a board meeting, happy to do that.
We do have one question so far, and the question says, what about other businesses in Dolton that have had their taxes raised more than doubled? How can you help? We've been sending emails and phone calls, and no one has been replying from Dolton.
Yeah. That's a big question. Let me answer a little bit how this process is supposed to help. By energizing this piece of property and by improving it, hopefully with a sales tax producer. That's been the village's goal for several years, is to get a sales tax producer here. And by that, I mean a grocery store, a home improvement store, a Home Depot, Lowe's type thing, a car dealer, anything that produces sizable non-property tax revenues is the goal. And although it's one piece of property, that in turn can help the village keep the line or keep property taxes from increasing unreasonably. We all know the challenges of the South Suburbs with property tax, which is again one of the imperative reasons for having a TIF district in the first place, to level the playing field. So the goal with this property, which may help jumpstart other properties, is to have a revenue generator for the taxpayers of Dolton, which is not based on the property tax, but rather is based on the sales tax. Any other questions or comments, Gio?
So that's the only question that we have right now.
All righty. Well, Elizabeth, at this point, we'll be adjourning the joint review board proceeding. We'll write up a note in terms of memo to the board. I guess you can make a motion to yourself and approve it.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? You're it.
All in favor?
So that's it. Lowell and Bob, thank you very much for your
Oh.
work on the project.
Yeah, it was nice to see everybody. In particular, haven't met Elizabeth and Giovanni. Good to visit with you guys remotely. Thank you.
And if you guys have any questions or comments, you can just email one of us, Kay McKenna.
As a matter of fact, it just occurred to me a couple of things, a couple of questions. One, can this meeting be put on our cable TV or on our web page or Facebook page so people can access it?
Yes, it'll go up tomorrow morning.
And then secondly, the PowerPoint slides that were presented, can they go up?
I can have those as an attachment on the website, and then I also can have those slides go on the broadcast as well.
I think that would be helpful because the one of the most important parts about TIF, it's not a new tax. It captures the increased taxes that development will produce for this property and use it to reimburse the developer for the costs that it needs to get this property jump started. So I think the visuals are very good, and we should post them when we can.
Yeah, Bonnie, I noticed on the slide, we only had one picture on there.
Yeah.
Can you?
Do you have the original, the other pictures?
They didn't go through, Lowell. That was the
No, I
problem.
don't have those.
Okay, let me try to send one email to email.
Hey, Lowell, one thing that Elizabeth recommended, maybe we could break them up. If you got the time, maybe send one at a time to Giovanni, then Giovanni, you could assemble all of them on your end. And this way you get the full card deck, so to speak, because we got about 10 other pictures. And as John indicated, this area has been in need of redevelopment, rough condition. And these pictures are fairly descriptive. Maybe, Lowell, think about that. Maybe one at a time.
Okay, let me try to send the original PowerPoint first and then see what happens, okay? And you
All
get
right.
back to me and see, maybe with some kind of glitch on our part.
Okay, that's fine.
What he means is a glitch on my part. That's what that's exactly what he means. So, but
Hey, I'm here to help. It's totally fine.
okay.
All right, they're great,
Right.
everybody. That concludes this proceeding.
All right. Thank you, John, for being the MC.
Thank you, Attorney Murphy.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Take care, you guys.
All right, thank you. Thank you. I'll send that whenever I get a chance there, Giovanni.
Okay, thank you.
Can you CC me on that, Lowell? Because I never got the